All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Record Straight.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
Feeling
all right.
good?
It's
Feeling good?
Yeah, it's busy. We're busy.
Man, it's a busy time of the year.
We are just really always doing something, but feeling good. And all of our artists are doing really well, and the business is booming. So we can't complain, can we?
Yeah, busy time to be alive, but in a good way. It's whenever I speak to anyone, I feel like I'm saying, they're like, "Oh, how you going?" I'm like, "I'm doing this, and this, and this, and this," and they're like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm good." And they're like, "You sound like you're stressed out." I'm like, "I'm stressed, but in a good way."
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
I'm the same. But
Yeah.
you got to remember what Frank Catella, shout out, has told me for the last 10 years. We're in the music industry. Nothing matters. And that's what we have to take with us.
Yeah, it is definitely a good attitude that good old Frankie boy's got.
Thank you,
it?
One Love, for teaching me that.
Let's dive into what we're talking about today, because I think this is something that is very close to both of our passions.
Correct.
Within the music industry and artist development in general. But yeah, why don't you take us away?
Let's build an artist business. Let's take artists through what they can consider, what they can action to develop themselves from the artist creative into the artist business.
Yeah.
It is the perfect integration, and you love to say it, between creative and commerce.
Yeah. And I think to go along with that, I think a lot of the artists that have already listened to a lot of these episodes know what this is about and have a really kind of clear understanding. But this podcast is not for the hobbyists. You know,
Yeah, we're not talking to you.
We're not talking to guys that, like myself, who make music and leave it on a hard drive. This podcast is for the artists who want to develop a sustainable,
Correct.
whether it be career or whatever form of sustainability they're looking to develop out of their artist project.
That's right.
I think as a starting point, what I'd love to dive into first is that whole concept of sustainability, because I think, you know, I speak to artists daily and you know, it's always a very common trend with the belief in their artist project, which needs to be there, comes, I'm going to tour the world. I'm going to play stadiums. I'm going to songwrite with and collaborate with all of these people. And there's no real kind of functional way to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I think the first step in terms of creating an artist business is really understanding what you're trying to achieve. What's the end point? I think what comes to mind is that there's two types of artist businesses out there. There's the sustainable artist career, which is where you're earning enough income through your creative endeavor that allows you to
Funnel back into the project.
But also live your lifestyle.
Yeah, that's right.
Some would argue that's what we do.
Yeah.
You know, Cartel's our creative endeavor. We funnel it so that we can survive and live and feed our families and do everything that we need to do. But then on the other side is sustainability, to be able to fund the art that you're doing. So make enough money in your artist project to be able to fund your art.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be a really clear distinction that's met, because there are two different forms of sustainability.
Yeah.
I think one builds into the other.
I agree.
As a starting point, but I think that was a really important first step. You got to understand what you're trying to do.
Yes. And who you are beyond the music and what you are trying to achieve ultimately and the ways to get there. We were talking just before this, and our previous management client, Miller Roberts, her main focus when we were with her was to develop her songwriting and her catalog and be able to write for other people as she funded that part of her lifestyle, as she funded back into the project. And that is a really, really healthy, achievable goal that we were working towards.
She's a really good kind of, I guess, a case study that we can draw upon a lot. Like I know, because we worked with that project intimately.
So intimately,
you know, she, if anyone hasn't heard of Miller Roberts, go listen to her catalog. She's
her
incredible.
Voice is stunning. One of the most beautiful female vocalists I've heard.
An incredible songwriter also.
Yes, correct.
But yeah, it was very clear working with Mel from early on that her strength was in songwriting and collaborating, and didn't really have too much of an interest in terms of touring the world and doing all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, very quickly we knew as a management team what our focus was. And our focus was, all right, well, let's utilize the artist's strengths.
Yep.
her field of passion, put those together and try and create sustainability out of that. And so what we did was, we built her business around songwriting and writing top lines. So, she would generate income by writing top line vocals for dance acts and get paid an upfront fee, which would then get put into
funded back into
her project,
mix mastering or the producers
Content.
or whatever it was. So that's a really important part. And also it doesn't have to be that singularly defined. If you are looking to be the big artist that does travel and does want to do all of that stuff, taking it step by step like that and achieving those goals step by step is a kind of really manageable way to be able to fund parts of the project without having to go at the whole thing all at once, because it does become very overwhelming for artists, particularly if they don't have a team around them who want to go, I want to do everything. And unless you are business minded, it is hard to do everything all at once.
Yeah.
So who you are beyond the music, what you want to achieve, your narrative and the drivers for that, I think is really important to first identify.
And what your strengths are.
What your strengths are. Yeah. Everything, be really, really critical about your artist project and how you want to be perceived and how you can then utilize those strengths and those weaknesses to be able to find a path forward. Then, what is your value? What is your product? Why is music one part of what they offer?
So I think Miller, again, is a really good example of this. Her value was her strength in songwriting.
Great.
Sorry, I couldn't speak there. And it was her ability to be able to have and be able to communicate to industry a large catalog that they could utilize.
Yep.
So they could utilize her music in sync and TV. They could utilize parts of her catalog for other artists' writing, et cetera, et cetera. For some artists that are listening to this, your value might be performance.
Correct.
It might be your stage presence. It might be the way that you perform. It might be your band. It might be the energy that you bring. Understanding that value. It's key, because you can,
Absolutely.
You then go, all right, well, we can double down on this, and you're not necessarily focusing on parts of the project that might or, may or might not work.
Yeah. And again, the critical thinking and trying to be a bit more business minded is important in this, because performance, yes, this big band in big venues, yes, but make it manageable, bite-size it down. If your performance strong and you know that you can hold a room, look for corporate opportunities first. Really get a sense of who you are as a solo artist, who you are as a duo. Develop your relationships with different band members that you can create different experiences for audiences. Don't just go, we're a 5-piece band and we're only going to perform headline shows at like Cherry Bar and The Corner and all of these things. It's really hard to make money that way. So let's try and be adaptable a little bit as well, and be able to select where we want to put our attention, and then be able to double down on that and actually make the money back.
The performance one's actually a really interesting one. I think the way that we've kind of spoken about it to a lot of artists in this realm, at least I know I have in my sessions, is you kind of look at gigs in two ways. You've got the brand building gigs, which are the headline shows, the hard tickets, the festivals, the tours, the support gigs. But then you've got the shows on the other side. I call them corporate shows, which are the, you might be booked through an agency to play a specific event, a work party, a function. When I was DJing, I used to DJ at like Melbourne Central and Crown
those
Casino.
10-hour DJ sets were
absolute marathon sets. But they're not necessarily ones that you promote or naturally build the narrative of the project, but their sole focus is to generate income, which you can put into other areas of the project. So for me, as an example, I played way more corporate sets than I did, narrative building sets, but it allowed me to put out all of my music. It allowed me
without
to
being out of pocket,
fund my lifestyle. It allowed me to start this business. And it allowed me to do so much other stuff and do I necessarily enjoy playing those gigs? Well, not necessarily, but it's better than working at Telstra.
Absolutely. But not that there's anything wrong with that either.
Oh, no, of course not.
So in a business sense, that's called diversifying. It's you're diversifying your time, your energy, your assets. It also, not just about the money, it also allows artists to understand how to read a room, how to gel with their band, how to have a really, really tight set. I was speaking to a drummer yesterday, and the consistent gigs that him and his band play at one particular venue allow them, like they have a residency, they are able to become really tight and learn new songs and be able to really cement the set list. So then when artists and bands do perform at big venues,
it's second nature.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. They're going to be blown out of the water.
Yeah. I also think it's not just the performance aspect of it. It's bump in, bump out, rehearsal schedules. It's,
you learn so
front
much.
and back of house.
Yeah.
Dealing with promoters, dealing with venues, dealing with agencies that book the corporates, dealing with that. It's all part of this.
Yeah. So thinking about an artist business, what are some other revenue streams? I know them. Mm-hmm. Would you like me to go through them?
Yeah. Well, performance is one, songwriting's one, sync and licensing is another.
Merchandise, brand collaborations,
features,
fan clubs and events.
Yeah. Generally, when you're building when you're building to a certain level, funding through like advertising and things like that through different platforms like YouTube and Content ID and things like that is another way to do it.
Getting grants, building industry teams. All of these are different revenue streams. So as you're identifying yourself as a business, you've got your narrative, you've got your product and value, you've got your diversification, you've got your revenue streams. Then it is about data ownership. Let's really hone in on the access to your audiences as data. Think about that as a business, not just, I got 1,000 likes on my post. That does not fucking matter. What matters is you have 100 emails from your audience that will allow you to sell your merchandise, sell your tickets, build a deeper connection so then they can funnel back into your project, that they can feel a part of it, that they can buy more things, do more things, support you more, and you grow off the back of that 100 to 500 to 1,000 where then you can play big stadium shows.
It's generating demand, right? It's I've said this before and it seems to be a bit of a catchphrase from me, but I think what separates the great artists from the mediocre ones is the ability for an artist to create a balance between the creative processes and being able to communicate that creative to an audience that is likely to give a fuck, be able to do that over a longer period, over a catalogue of music. And essentially what you're saying is, we need to generate demand. Yep. The value is the music, the value is the performance, the value is the collaboration, the songwriting. How do we generate demand for that to bring in income? That is business.
It's business. And then you're also, within that, you're prioritizing that data to be able to generate more business opportunity. So you're collecting emails, you're collecting text messages, phone numbers, you're collecting DMs and databases and building out forms for different things to be able to have your own essentially ecosystem, like client list.
Yeah.
And that client list can then be used to generate more income.
Absolutely.
All right, data ownership. We're really banging this one out because it's very clear it doesn't come super, maybe it does to some artists, but for creatives, it's a little bit unclear because often they're so focused on the creative, which they should be. We need to just highlight the kind of things that they need to be aware of in terms of a business mind as well. So there's all of those things. One of the biggest ones for a business, have clear goals and clear KPIs within your music project. That is what makes you a business. What does success look like for you this month? What does it look like in 6 months? When I work with my 6-month consulting artists, we go through every single month what we want to achieve and what that looks like in terms of the overarching 6 months that we're working together. And then what that looks like in 1 year and 2 years and 5 years, depending on their goals. and we build out those KPIs. We build out those success measurements, whether that, and it's very, very, it's not limited to, I want to get to 100,000 Instagram followers. You'd be surprised how many times someone's told me that. It is about, I want to get to 500 active email data lists. I want to get to a 750 cap venue to sell out. Those business targets month to month, and those create really clear actions that we can move forward. That's how you create longevity.
Well, those goals dictate the actions.
Well, exactly right.
You know, the goals that you set monthly, weekly, yearly, whatever it is, dictate what your action should be.
And
we're not just releasing song, posting a couple of times,
and hoping that
best.
It works.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. We're driving towards something, and that's what a business does. I think a big thing to note is that your narrative, your story of the project, your creative, your art, and your business goals should all align. And you need to be really realistic with what that looks like. You cannot have a narrative where you're a relatively new artist and your business goal be, I want to get to a Grammy next year. Because I hope that you do get a Grammy, but oftentimes it doesn't work. There is no alignment. What we can do is build a really strong narrative for an artist. We can create the art that surrounds the narrative, or the narrative around the artwork, the art frame, and then build the business goals off the back of that.
Yeah.
We work with a lot of ongoing artists. I can't think of an exact example, but the only one I can think of at the top of my head is when we work with Mystico. It's very, very much about their EP, their collaborative EP, funnels into their narrative, which is the facilitators, the engineers of the Melbourne music scene. And so they collaborate on the EP with other Melbourne musicians, give them a spotlight, give them a promotional tool, build towards a show. And then the festival, which we did at Homegrown at the Corner last year, was a 750 cap sold out room. And that's what we drove towards. And those three things aligned.
And we build off that into what will happen this year and the year following.
That's right. And to break it all down, those months in between, it was all about KPIs. It was all about getting to 100 email subscribers that we can then leverage for ticket sales, getting to the 5 collaborative artists that we had on that EP and be able to utilize their reach and their 100%. Audiences. There were things that go into that. So if any artist is listening and you have an idea of what that looks like, or you want to learn more and you want to know what that is for your project, please email us. Christina at cartelaustralia.com.au, Anthony at cartelaustralia.com.au. I know we're not supposed to plug right away, but like that is a really important piece of the puzzle if you do want financial stability. And that is something that I, particularly you too, but I am very, very passionate about with my ongoing clients. Mm-hmm. Then I think I'll touch a few more, but I think in terms of building a business, we got to pay attention to strategy. We got to plan intentional content around releases, intentional UGC, which we spoke about in the last podcast, intentional audience engagement strategies, the narrative and the story of that narrative over time, over that catalog. You know, it's not just for 4 weeks leading in, 4 weeks post-release that there is this release rollout and that's it. What are we doing with a release that we did a year ago? You know, how are we reinventing that? How are we monetizing that? How are we putting that back into focus with different audience members so then we can build new clientele, basically, as a business? I think the last thing I want to touch on is team roles and your systems, right? In terms of business, that's the kind of the easiest way.
You love systems, don't you?
I do not. Was that a joke? Because I think you love systems much more than I do.
Well, I use them, so I don't know what you're doing, but no, it's a joke.
No, I don't use the systems. Sorry. So I think defining a team and a role within the team is really important. So as you start to grow as an artist, you can't do everything, and you shouldn't, right? You have to build out your team slowly to be able to get to where you need to be. So we are a part of a lot of artist teams in a lot of different ways. Usually as strategists and consultants, sometimes as a manager, sometimes as a,
PR,
social
strategy.
whatever it might be. Solo artists or bands also need collaborators. So working in with different artist peers for songwriting, for development, all of those things build towards your team and your roles within your business team.
Totally.
Then the systems, just being able to create repeatable processes, repeatable release strategies, repeatable audience follow-ups, repeated conversation funnels.
For example, the label standard release cycle. It's a podcast that we've done. It's an article that we've put out.
It's on our website.
It's in the Artist Development 2026 playbook that we've communicated. That 5 to 6 week release cycle is a process. It is a system. And why systems work and why when developing an artist business that you should have them is because they're measurable.
Correct.
You can sit back at the end of it and go, this didn't work because of X, Y, and Z. On the next one, I will do A, B, and C.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think that should be literally throughout every process. The same as what an artist would do in terms of, I know every creative process is different, but you have the same steps in which you write your song, potentially. Some artists do it a very particular way. So keep that creative process repeatability and extend it to your business acumen, your business brand. Can I keep talking? I'm getting the roll it up.
Just go. You're not getting the roll it up. Keep going. This is good.
Your consistency beats virality. I really.
Yeah, we've spoken about this at nauseam.
I'm going to get consistency tattooed across my fucking forehead because the amount of times I use that word throughout a day. Systems over hype, consistency over virality.
That's cool. I like that. That's a really good shout.
Thank you. Just please repeat for everyone that's still listening, hopefully. Usually it's Anth doing all of the talking. So I'm glad that
a rant today.
I really have because I'm so passionate about this. This is my favorite part of building an artist.
Well, it's actually not that hard to build an artist business.
No.
Well, I mean, it is extremely difficult, but with the right mindset in place in terms of like, this is what I want to achieve. This is the end point. Being able to build to that end point is just really about what you're doing in the middle ground. And so not that it isn't hard. I don't want to say that
it's a slog.
Easy.
Yeah.
It's a slog. It's going to be hard, but it's doable. I think that there's a rhetoric out there that building an artist project into a sustainable thing is this unreachable goal.
Yeah, I think
and it really isn't. Like you can have 300 fans, you can have 50 fans and make really decent income.
Yeah.
Off the back of whatever your strength is, if you have those things in place. And I think you've outlined them really, really well.
There are 12 steps. I'll put all of those steps in the description of wherever you're listening. For the kind of summary, start with the mindset shift. It is artist, business, creativity, and commerce, right? If you want to build financial sustainability and you want that to be your artist career or you want to funnel some kind of income into your project, you are a business. You have to balance your creative and your commerce. Then it's about identifying your narrative, your audience, your product and value, your revenue stream, your data ownership and your strategy for data ownership, setting clear goals and KPIs month to month, year to year about what you want to achieve, your release and attention strategies, your team and your roles, system over hype, your financial literacy. We haven't touched on that, but please be familiar with your budget, your return on investment. Please understand some kind of margin so you're not blowing out $3,000 on a music video that's not going to return anything.
Also, to go with that, like having at least a decent or at least a baseline understanding of royalties, neighboring rights, publishing, master recording, distribution royalties, all all of that type of stuff. Have an understanding of PPCA, APRA, AMCOS. Like you need to understand that stuff, when the payouts are, what rates are.
Yeah.
You know, I think that again, there's a lot of rhetoric out there of artists going, Spotify don't pay, you know, which is true. You're getting 0.003 cents per stream.
It's
but do you
not a
know,
lot.
but these are the same artists that have no idea where their stream, where the income, whether, you know, they're not signed up for APRA.
Yeah.
For example, you know,
So they have
you know,
no
they're
idea.
playing shows
Of
and not
course.
putting their set list into PPCA. You know, it's
Yeah.
I think having an understanding of neighboring rights, distribution royalties, publishing, it's so important, because off the back of that understanding, you can then develop, okay, what am I actually doing here? What's a song cost me?
Yeah.
How many streams or how many views or how many audience members do I need to hit to be able to pay that back?
Mm-hmm.
And then off the back of that, you're really starting to move.
Well, that's how you become a business.
Yeah.
That's how,
I think just to go along with that as well, it's not quite often talked about in music, but I think it's really important to understand just get an accountant.
Yeah.
like get an accountant, understand the tax.
And a lawyer.
Yeah, understand the tax implications of what you're doing, understand what you can claim. You know, for example, producers buying, you know, Nexus or, you know, Massive, or, you know, using Pro Tools or things like that. You know, I'm sure that there are things that you can claim there. Artists buying beats. You know, understand the tax implications, get an accountant. If you're really doing a lot of transactions, even think about getting a bookkeeper. I think those things are really overlooked and they're not discussed. But it's all important.
Baseline is get an understanding yourself, and then
sorry.
definitely go and seek further financial help.
I just kicked you
as
there.
well.
I'm so sorry.
So fine.
I think that's a lot.
Starting to unravel.
Yeah, we're starting to unravel. I think that's a lot. But I think what we'll do is we'll put everything that you outlined in the show notes on YouTube. And again, Christina just outed both of our emails before, so if you want to hit us up, just shoot us an email. It's totally fine.
Should we not done that? Oh no.
I mean, I wouldn't. Do you want to give them our address or? Nah. So, you know, we're always around, guys, and please feel free to hit us up at any point.
Yeah.
Again, all the pluggy stuff, cartelaustralia.com.au, Instagram and TikTok is cartel.australia. We're always around floating in the DMs, so please feel free to hit us back or hit us up in the first place. And yeah, we 2026 has been a big year thus far, and we've spoken to a lot of cool artists, and there are a lot of artists that we're working with, and a lot of collectives that we're working with that are doing really cool out of the box things. You know, and we just want to hear about it. So let's keep a line open.
Yeah. Please hit us up. We'll speak to you soon.
Oodaloo.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.